everybody. You're listening to the Big Chill Podcast. This is episode 549, Ted Lasso Series Finale. Big Chillians, welcome back to the Big Chill Podcast. I'm Frank, joined as always with Eddie. Eddie, I don't hear any loud ruckus, any noise going on, no parties?
No, yeah, last night the person above us decided to have a pretty noisy dinner party, which delayed our recording because based on just old Paris buildings, no matter, you can't soundproof a room well enough to possibly keep that noise out. But it's also just... the guy is, he's probably 26, 27 years old, and he's really into like electro music.
Oh, nice. Did you go up and join him?
No, but I previously in a real old man move, and I think I've mentioned it to you before, I had to go once at 4:00 in the afternoon and ask him to turn his music down because I was having work calls and he was just blasting music. And I actually felt less embarrassed doing that in a sense than I would have done doing it last night, because that feels far more, I have a justifiable reason. Look, it's midway through the afternoon. I'm on calls and people are like, this is impacting my work, versus, hey, it's 11:30 at night and I'd like to get some sleep. Do you think you could turn it down? To me, it's actually was easier for me doing it at 4 in the afternoon.
Yeah, probably. Did
How
you
are
shut
you
this
doing?
Party down?
No, let it go. Let it run. How are you doing since we last spoke? It's been a little bit of time because you continued your jet set lifestyle and flew off to Hawaii for a few days.
The beautiful, beautiful state of Hawaii. I almost didn't come back, Eddie. I was so close.
I know. I fully... we just... I'm unhappy with myself for ruining it off podcast, but it's the 10-year anniversary of you getting your PhD. And if, Frank from 10 years ago could look back on some of the ways in which his life has gone, the bold predictions that he would have made for there's absolutely no way these certain things would have happened, it would be...
It kind of mirrors my my sports gambling life. Just a lot of losses.
So moving to Hawaii would just complete the set. That would just be the ultimate didn't see it coming from Frank.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon.
It would be tough for the podcast. Actually, would it be better? I know the recording times would be
crazy.
Would be difficult.
3 more hours behind from where I am.
It would just
Pacific
be
time.
You recording first thing in the morning and me recording at the end of the day.
Yeah, it was quite weird watching the NBA playoffs and the NHL playoffs starting at 1 and 2 in the afternoon, just like straight in the middle of the day.
I'm always torn over this because, I obviously watch, and as do you, a lot of sports in different time zones. So you become a little bit accustomed to watching certain things at weird times. Yeah. And I then often think to myself, what would be my ideal place to live to cover the various sports that I want to watch? You know me, my ideal spot is Barbados because I think that strikes the balance between Europe and North America and just makes everything very watchable. But there is something nice to... It's like when the World Cup is on, but it's being hosted in a weird country, It's weird, but often Asia or something. And you have, or the Olympics or whatever it is. And you do have like, it's 1:00 in the afternoon and something cool is happening. It's kind of nice.
Yeah. I love the Pacific time, at least for American sports. I love it. It is so enjoyable to have Sunday and Monday Night Football start at 5 p.m. It's amazing. The only downside of that is if you are into European sports, it can be a little early sometimes. We are just discussing off podcast, the FA Cup is this Saturday, and that's going to be a 7 a.m. kickoff for me, which is fine. That's doable. Like, I don't have an issue waking up at 7, but there are matches that then are usually starting at like 4 or 5 in the morning, and that's that's not too feasible on a Saturday to be getting up at 4:30 to watch a football match. And horse racing is obviously not super time. The times don't match up very well for me as well, and that's also, we talked about, the Derby is going to be a little too early for me maybe to watch.
Yeah, Hawaii would make that almost impossible for some races.
But listen, bro, I'll be living on the beach, aloha, enjoying life.
Hanging
Surfs
10.
up, hang 10.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think you should do it. Just live in a Hawaiian shirt every day. Just go full.
I do love Hawaiian shirts, but
go full mainlander who's moved to Hawaii, just really embracing stereotypical sort of expat Hawaii life.
I had an Uber incident for you, Eddie. I thought you might enjoy while I was in Hawaii. So, do you want to hear the story?
Yeah, go for it.
Would you like to know more?
Yeah,
Starship Troopers?
No, thanks. Let's move on to the next topic.
So I did a hike, and it was about like 4 miles from the hotel. So I had an Uber to the trailhead, and I got there, I don't know, like 8:30, 9 in the morning. Did my hike. It was a lot longer than I thought it was going to be, and actually a lot more difficult than I thought it was going to be. And my plan had actually been to, once the hike was over, the trailhead was like at the top of a hill. So that's why I didn't want to walk it in the morning, because it would have been like going up a hill for 3 miles. So I was like, when I'm done with the hike, I'll just walk down the hill down to like one of the main roads and then just hop on a bus and take the bus back to my hotel. It wouldn't have been too bad. But I got done with the hike and I underestimated the amount of hungover I was, and that I didn't bring enough water, and I was cramping with like a half mile to go and was questioning whether I was even going to make it back to the trailhead. But I had to take about a good 15-minute break to let my legs recover. And then finally, like, I did the last half mile and made it. And I kind of said, like, there's no way I'm going to be able to walk for another 2 miles down this hill. So I was like, I'll call the Uber. But hiking in Hawaii is like hiking in the rainforest, and I was from knees down. I had pants on, but covered in mud, just mud on my pants, dried up, but mud. Shoes, the outsides were all covered in mud, but the bottom part I had like kind of cleaned off on the grass and the concrete. So the Uber driver comes, he takes one look at me and he goes, "Is that mud?" And I go, "Yeah, it's dried up." It's like, he's like, "You're not getting in my car with mud." And I was like, "Oh, I don't know what to tell you. Like, there's no option on the Uber to say, are you covered in mud or not? Like, what do you want me to do?" He's like, "Yeah, you can't come in this car." He's like, "I just got this car cleaned." I was like, "Well, I have no other way to get back, and you're here. So like, and the door's open. So unless you're going to drive off, I'm getting in this car." So I got in the car and I had to like sit at the very edge of the seat, the back seat, and then like hold on to the front seat so that my legs never touched any part of his car for 4 miles. And this guy proceeded to like Tokyo drift style down this hill, just like testing my limits of how strong I could hold on to this chair without having my legs flail about. I thought for a second I was going to rip the chair head cushion off because he was going so fast. But eventually I made it and didn't put like an ounce of dirt. And as soon as I got out, he like turned around and like looked all over. But the joke, Eddie, is on him, because I had an enormous amount of swamp ass that will permeate in his back seat for life.
You know, you don't look good out of any part of this story. Because initially I'm with the Uber driver. If that's my car, I don't want you in there covered in mud. So
But I wasn't covered in mud. Like, it was just on my pants. It wasn't like mud was dripping from me.
But even
it wasn't
dry
like a
mud,
wet dog.
But dry mud flakes off, and yeah, it's a little bit easier to deal with because you can probably just vacuum it up or whatever. But still, you know, I'm assuming you weren't his last ride of the day, so then he's going to have to get other people in there. So I'm kind of on his side throughout this story, apart from the reckless driving, if he then doesn't, unless you assume he wanted you to then get mud somewhere so he can hit you with some cleaning fee.
I was waiting for that. And that was like, I tried so hard to make sure I didn't get anything because I wanted this guy to try and attempt to give me the cleaning fee. But he did not. He actually turned out to be a pretty nice guy. We had a great conversation about how the economy in Hawaii is crippling.
Wow, must have been uplifting.
Super uplifting.
Yeah.
But Hawaii is okay. Well, I can't say. I was in Honolulu and Waikiki particularly, which is super, super touristy. Like walking down the streets, I was trying to find restaurants, and I walked by a cheesecake factory and saw a father come out and go, "Yeah, the wait they said is going to be like an hour and a half, 2 hours. So not bad. I say we just wait and go here." And I wanted to be like, "Dude, you're in Hawaii. This is the fucking cheesecake factory. What are you doing?"
Well, maybe he's a local. Maybe that is the destination
He
to
was
go
not
to.
a local.
But no, yeah, I mean that's insane. I wouldn't wait that long for anywhere. There's no restaurant on earth where if you told me there's a 2 hour wait, I'm hanging around. I'm not one of those people.
But have you seen the size of the Cheesecake Factory menu, Eddie?
I've never been to a cheesecake factory, so
they're
maybe I
notorious
would
for
wait.
having like a 30-page menu.
Maybe for the Cheesecake Factory, I would wait in line, having never been there.
It's not the Donut Cake Factory, though, so
God.
probably not.
Well, where do we begin? We've with a week of sport to kind of catch up on, a number of events to go over, I suppose.
Well, we can fly through a few. Stanley Cup Finals start today. Cool. NBA Finals start tomorrow.
Yep.
Good.
Those
Done.
Those matchups are set.
Yeah. So I guess the only interesting thing is the Celtics were down 3-0, made it all the way back to Game 7, and tried to break the curse of the NBA teams going down 0-3, being 0 for 149.
Is that a curse?
Instead, they just rounded it off.
Is it a curse if you just fall massively behind? Oh no, we've been struck with the curse of losing the first 3 games. Yeah, no, and I'm surprised. Once they got back to 3-2, I thought they were going to win the series.
Yeah.
And certainly once it went to Game 7 at home, I didn't see how the Heat were going to possibly win. And for the Celtics to just completely capitulate in Game 7 and never really have it be a contest was really, really surprising.
Yeah. But I think Jason Tatum went down early in that game with an ankle injury, and he was averaging, I think, over 30 in their 3 wins leading up to Game 7. And then I think ended up with, I want to say like 15 points in Game 7. So that probably contributed, but they never really seemed in it in much of that game.
Look, if anything, my theory that I believe that I could become the head coach for pretty much most professional sports teams out there and you wouldn't notice a tremendous difference. Joe Mazzulla, or however you say his last name, he is walking proof of the fact that I think I could step into an NBA locker room and be okay, assuming that the talent of the players, at my disposal was high enough. He just seems like a corpse on the sideline and just has a 1,000-yard stare and just seems to be one of those people who's decided that looking intense should sort of transfer into actual intensity, which it doesn't. And then his stupid answers in press conferences. I was out on him from day one, and it's not because I'm some royalist, but whenever he was asked about when who was it, the Prince and Princess of Wales were in attendance for a Celtics game, and he said, "I only know one royal family, Joseph, Mary, and Jesus," or something like that. He said in return. How you can say something like that with a straight face is just unbelievable to me. But yeah, I hope that we don't have to deal with him in the NBA next season, certainly in a head coaching capacity.
I thought actually you were going to go with the Heat coach, Coach Spo, as they call him, because he started out as the video coordinator with the Heat in 1995 and then slowly worked his way up the organization.
2 stories that I've had enough of over the past week or 2. There's 2. I don't want to discuss them at all. Eric Spoelstra starting as a video editor for the Heat, which He's been the head coach of the Heat for several years now, has won multiple NBA titles. This gets brought up every single time the Heat have any kind of run in the playoffs. So it really doesn't need to be brought up every year. I've had enough of that one, and the other one I've had enough of on the back of their promotion to the Premier League is Luton and photographs or videos of their home ground
Oh my
being,
God.
can you believe that this is going to be a Premier League home ground next season? I got it.
Oh.
We all had that drilled into our heads now over the past few months. We don't need anyone. If you're a YouTuber out there looking for content where you can do the weird talking over like a montage. I don't know how I was going to say that word. Montage of video of clips and images. Leave the Luton home ground one out. We've seen it.
At this point, I've seen the videos and pictures enough that I think if you just dropped me off in Luton, I could get to the away stands just from memory of the videos and the landmarks within those videos.
it's so, like, it's, again, I get it because it is interesting, but then people just have to beat you over the head with it. And every channel, it's just the lack of originality. And hey, we've kind of followed the trend, I suppose, by commenting on it, by being critical of the lack of originality. But anyway, 2 topics we do not need to discuss. So on to the next. What do we catch up on? How about Borussia Dortmund falling at the final hurdle in their attempts to win the Bundesliga, going into the final match of the season, only needing, with everything in their own hands, had they won, they would have been Bundesliga champions. Had they at least matched Bayern Munich's result, then they would have been Bundesliga champions. As it turned out, they fell behind 2-0 early. They missed a penalty when it was only 1-0. And then they equalized with virtually the last kick of the game, with not enough time to find a winner. And Bayern Munich won 2-1, were the fairly late winner in their match. And Bayern Munich, 11-time Bundesliga champions, even though it looked highly unlikely going into the final match of the season.
Yeah, I can bring it full circle now here, because the only reason I was able to watch both of these matches was because I was in my taxi ride to the airport at 4:30 in the morning, and I had a 30-minute drive to the airport and said, wow, what a great time to catch the second half of both of these matches. And I have to say, I started out with Dortmund and then went to Bayern Munich when it was 1-1, right? Because they were down 1-0.
And then Bayern Munich were winning.
Oh, they were winning, and then it went 1-1.
Then it went 1-1 with sort of like 15 minutes or so to go.
Yeah, so I went back to that to see if they could score, and then they did, and then I went back to Dortmund to see if they could pull off a miracle. And I think we joked about it, in our chat. What is that locker room like? Like, I can't even imagine, because the crazy thing about football is it so rarely comes down to a final match like that. It's not like the World Cup in the domestic leagues where there's the final, there's the championship. Yes, there's the FA Cup and all that, but in terms of winning your league, it rarely comes down to that winner take all match. And to have that match and to have everything play in place, and to think finally luck is on our side, we're going to take down this team that can never be taken down, and to just lose it like that. Oh, I don't know if I'd even walk in the locker room. It'd be one of those things where you kind of just stand outside the locker room because you don't even want to go in because you're just so disappointed.
Yeah, no, it went terribly for them. And I mean, there were some bad, Jude Bellingham was out injured. That was a warning sign. They had a number of other players who were carrying knocks. And it's just surprising because they had been in such good form in the run-up to it. I saw no way that they weren't going to win. Even when they went 2-0 down, I thought, okay, Dortmund score a lot of goals. So they will, they'll get this to 2-1, maybe just after halftime. They'll give themselves plenty of time. And as long as this is 2-2 with, say, 10 minutes to go, they'll find a way to score. They absolutely dominated the game aside from that sort of opening 20 or so minutes. They should have had a second penalty when it was still 1-0. And I think they suffered from that, the issue of you can't be given multiple penalties in quick succession almost. So the fact that they were awarded one penalty and then missed it, and then should have had another penalty almost right after. Had they not had the initial penalty, the second penalty is almost certainly given. But yeah, it's got to be, for all of those players, you have to know that that was your one opportunity. And I will say, I like to give Twitter updates on Twitter scandals. This one has nothing to do with our account. However, the Twitter account Troll Football, which has 3 million followers, came up with, as far as sports are concerned, one of the most disgusting tweets I've ever seen. So Sebastian Haller, the Dortmund forward who missed the penalty when they were 1-0 down, and missed a number of other chances as well. They posted a picture of him sort of head in hands at the end of the match. He had cancer not that long ago and had to go through chemotherapy treatment.
I have a feeling I might know where this is going.
So he had testicular cancer. He had to go through treatment and then came back to play this season. And the picture has him looking dejected, and it said, and the tweet, this is verbatim, said, "When you beat cancer, but you couldn't beat Bayern." And I just don't know who writes that, because it's not even funny.
I mean, look, like they got the number one sports podcast in America to talk about it. We're debating it now. Did they do what they set out to do?
Yes, it's true. They're getting, yeah, exactly. The controversy is bringing comments. But yeah, I just don't know who writes that. Because again, I'm all for the occasional controversial comment, but you got to be amusing or insightful in some way, and that's just, and ultimately too, they didn't fail to beat Bayern. It's not even really correct. On the day, that wasn't their issue. They weren't going head to head with Bayern in the final match day of the season. But yeah, it was. And, we've spoken in the build-up to this match about what a dream send-off this was going to be for Jude Bellingham. And in the end, it's a little bit of a nightmare because he didn't make it onto the pitch. He doesn't get to try and help his team win the Bundesliga title. And now we presume that will be his last sort of involvement with Borussia Dortmund in any way. Right. What next during this speed run through sports from the last few days? I've got another one. How about Michael Block, who we gave a lot of credit to over on the back of his performance?
Oh, no. What happened? Oh, no. What did he do?
At the PGA Championship.
What did he say?
He was on a podcast a week ago, and he basically came out and said that if he had Rory McIlroy's length, that he would be one of the greatest golfers in the world. That if he could hit the extra sort of 30 or so yards.
Oh, that length. Okay.
Yeah, no, not penis size. This wasn't. That if he had that extra sort of 30 or so yards, then he would definitely be one of the best golfers in the world. It's a bold claim. It kind of makes a little bit of sense. I think the issue I take with it is that he referred to it as himself, and I think the stronger comment would have been, look, there's a lot of players in the world who, if you could add 30 yards onto their game, they would be up there with the very best. I think that would have been, and I put myself in that category, I think that would have been come across a little bit better than just saying, well, if I could hit the ball as far as Rory McIlroy, I'd be probably the best player ever. And it wasn't then helped by him going out and having a fairly disastrous outing at the Wells Fargo.
Well, I mean, maybe he's not wrong, because he seems to be pretty inventive when it came to his short game. He had a lot of saves and a lot of up and downs. So maybe if you get there closer, he wouldn't need to do that so often.
No, you're right. And there are a lot of people who were doing exactly what you're saying, and they went and got his statistical performance from his 4 rounds at the PGA and said, look, he's not wrong. He was like top 4 in every category relating to his short game over those 4 days. Yeah, that's a 4-day sample size. Rory McIlroy could pick a lot of tournaments out where he was in the top 4 in every statistical category, but he doesn't get to do that. He has a huge body of work, and we get to critique him based on years of performances. And Michael Block again, it's just a shame because, and I'm sure he's a really nice guy, and he probably didn't mean for this to be interpreted in the way that it was, but you do wish someone had sat down with him. If you take, for example, we always tell our guests, hey, we want you to speak openly. But if you say something and you want it edited out after we talk, then, we can do that before it's published. I think even I would have said to Michael Block, if he'd said that on our podcast, you sure you want that to be part of your you're only getting introduced to the world at this moment in time. No one knew who you were 2 weeks ago. And you want this to be one of the kind of top search results. Michael Block claims he could be greatest golfer of all time. That it's just not a great look.
So I got a quick story. We can do a little quick one. So I saw a story from the two-time Grand Slam champion, Garbine Muguruza. Am I saying that right, Eddie? Muguruza?
Muguruza, yeah.
Okay.
Female tennis player, for those
yes.
who are unfamiliar with her.
She just got engaged. And this, I think, is a bad story for athletes out there. Do you want to take a guess to who she got engaged to, Eddie? How they met? Do you want to give me the meet cute story?
I mean, I have literally no idea, so I don't know. I would guess it's either someone in her training camp, like a masseuse or a physio or someone, because tennis players tend to develop like close relationships with people in those positions.
It's worse than that. So this is a cautionary tale for athletes, I think. She met her fiance or future husband in New York City during the 2021 US Open, when she went out to take a walk in the park across from her hotel, and he approached her and asked for a selfie because he had recognized her, and took a selfie with her, and then they communicated afterwards and kept in contact, and then eventually got engaged. So I guess for fans out there, never stop taking your shot because you might get it. And for athletes, don't ever take selfies because a lot of them could be people looking to take their shot.
So that's definitely wasn't an unplanned, because I'll also say, while she is one of the more famous female tennis players, I wouldn't say you don't, especially in a place like New York, I think you'd have to be a pretty hardcore fan to be picking her out when she's wandering or just walking out of a hotel in presumably non-tennis gear. But I will say, having looked at pictures of him, he's a handsome guy. So
that's what she said. She said, he said, so they took a picture and he turned and said, well, he said, good luck at the US Open. And I was left thinking, wow, he's so handsome.
And ultimately, right. And this isn't me trying to, these can be delicate ground on which to tread, but it's where you cannot learn any lessons from these scenarios, because what it boils down to is, if you are very handsome, that's a charming way to meet someone. And if you're not handsome, then you're just a weird stalker. And the only thing the only thing that separates those two categories is how good looking are you? Nothing else. Because otherwise, probably 24 hours later, another fan did exactly the same thing and found themselves getting arrested in New York. Speaking of tennis, I did make it to Roland Garros a couple of days ago for the opening day on Sunday. I saw a few good matches. I took friend of the podcast Vasilis to watch. So we were on center court. We had some pretty good seats, I will say, which was nice. It was boiling hot, which was also last year when I went. It was raining, so it was nice to have an undisturbed day of tennis. We got to see, the big controversy of the opening day, which was Sabalenka, who her opponent, a Ukrainian player, refused to shake her hand. She's Belarusian, and refused to shake her hand at the end of the match, and boos rang out. I have to admit, I had no idea what was going on. I had taken my eyes off of the sort of handshake moment, and so people just started booing. And I assumed, I have to admit, that they were booing Sabalenka because she's Belarusian. So it's what makes this whole topic kind of difficult to follow, because I was like, oh, I guess they don't like Sabalenka because of the war. And then it turned out they were actually booing her Ukrainian opponent for not shaking her hand. It's one I'm torn on. I was talking to it about with a few people there, and then a few people afterwards who went, "Well, you have to show good sportsmanship." It's very easy to say when your country isn't being bombed. I don't know necessarily how many. I think I'm sure she doesn't think Sabalenka is behind the war, but I can understand having some degree of resentment. So I think it's easier said than done at times. And then we saw Tsitsipas, which was the real match of interest because I was there with Vasilis, who's met Tsitsipas on multiple occasions. We were sat not far from the players' box, and as Tsitsipas came on to warm up and his team went into his box, his dad, his brother, a host of other people, I told him Vasilis just walked up to shake his dad's hand. I was surprised no security stopped him. Not pretty lax security at Roland Garros, I've got to say, because whilst we were in good seats, I'm still surprised he was able to just casually stroll up to the players' box. Had a quick chat with Tsitsipas's dad and Tsitsipas's brother, and then came back, and then we proceeded to watch, I think, one of the bigger head cases in world tennis. And
Wow.
I was very happy to be sat next to a native Greek speaker because we could then hear what his dad was saying very clearly throughout the match in terms of the advice he was providing to Tsitsipas. And with Vasilis translating for me,
Just love it. Just love seeing Vasilis be like a translator.
Assuming these translations are correct, which I have no reason to think that they're not, Tsitsipas definitely breaking some ATP rules with the detail with which his dad provides coaching, which is, I'm not breaking any news there. He is regularly accused of, with his dad, of talking too much and providing too much advice. And they do a good job because Tsitsipas doesn't make eye contact, but will be looking at the ground, and his dad will just be shouting things out, and Tsitsipas will appear to just be kind of yelling at himself, but he's actually responding to his dad. And if you don't speak Greek, you have no idea what's going on. But it was. And then, as an update on Vasilis, he then became incredibly patriotic. And because we were sat just by the players' box, every time Tsitsipas won an important point, Vasilis stood up and gave a big either thumbs up or a big fist pump, and you would have thought that we were part of that players' box, and he was making eye contact with us.
Oh, that is so good. I love it. Did he get the racket from him after? Did he get a signed wristband?
So at the end, he kind of chickened out because now the downside of being sat where we are is you're elevated, so you have no ability to actually interact with the player. Like there's no way to kind of go and try and ask for something at the end or say something to Tsitsipas himself. And as the match was wrapping up, I was like, "Oh, you should go." He said he actually asked me, "Do you think I should go and congratulate his dad?" I went, "Yeah, go for it. Go quickly and do that, and just see. You never know. Maybe he says, 'Oh.'" And
what? Would you like to sleep with my son? Like, what is he going to say to him?
I don't know. He was maybe going to, tell us, because the real thing I wanted out of it was, more tickets. But by the time Vasilis had kind of worked up the courage, Tsitsipas's dad had left. So we were just there.
Man, Vasilis continues to disappoint me.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, I will advise any listener who maybe on the off chance has the possibility of going to a tennis match with Vasilis, I would advise against it because...
Wait, stop. That's a very small window of people. It's likely me.
Yeah, well, you. I advise Frank. I advise you not to go to a tennis match. Tennis match is a big thing to be silent during play. You can get away with some murmuring and the odd quiet comment. But if Vasilis, his phone rings, he's picking it up and he doesn't care when it is. And there were break points when he was just picking it up and
in Greek,
loudly going into Greek. And I'll be honest with you, I think the only thing that saved us from probably being kicked out was the fact that he was speaking in Greek, because I think some people around us, especially after he had already walked to speak to the Tsitsipas camp, presumed that we were somehow associated with Tsitsipas himself, and so that we couldn't get quite the same
Maybe
backlash.
that's why Tsitsipas was such a head case, because he's like, who is this Greek asshole answering his phone talking about servings and reservations?
Yeah, probably thinks it's his dad. Why is my dad making a dinner reservation right now? But yeah,
What does
no,
he mean he doesn't want steak? What is he
it
talking
was
about?
it was uncomfortable at times. It probably happened 4 times, and it was every time it was just as uncomfortable as the time before.
I thought you were going to say he was just annoying you constantly. And I was actually going to recommend, why don't you just give him like a iPad or an iPhone with headphones on and like a little child. But it
No,
seems
he
like
was
that was the problem.
no, he was pretty focused actually, and he didn't talk that much. So that was the interesting thing. He didn't talk to me during points. I mean, we had our obviously midpoint or whatever at conversations, but yeah, aside from the updates, aside from him translating on what was going on between Sitsipas and his camp, he was pretty quiet. All right, what do we have next then?
All right, I'll give you grab bag. Would you rather talk about Al Pacino, Pat McAfee, or Harry Kane?
Let's start Al Pacino. Probably be the quickest, I presume.
Okay. Al Pacino expecting a new child. Do you want to take guess how old Al Pacino is?
I think he's like 79.
83.
Okay.
About to have a kid. You want to take a guess how old his girlfriend is that's having the child?
Wow, 25.
29.
Okay.
He
Sounds
has
about right.
children older than her.
This explains a lot because one of our mutual friends, Olivier, who loves tracking the American Express events that they provide, these kind of weird access to things you probably would never really want to go to. One of the recent ones, which he kept jokingly telling me that we should go to, was a Q&A with Al Pacino in Paris. And so tickets to we'll play a reverse game. How much do you think a ticket to this 2 hour long Q&A at a theater would be with Al Pacino?
A theater, so it's about like 10,000 people?
No. It's probably 2,000 seats, I would guess.
$500.
So just for the ticket? Okay, you're going way too high. this is when these kind of games don't work. So a ticket alone, I believe, was 90 euros. And then the Q&A, so then the VIP access, which basically meant you had a chance to shake his hand, have a picture taken, and probably say, hey, Al Pacino, I really like your movies. That was 750 euros.
Wow.
I don't know who's paying for that. I don't know how much you have to like Al Pacino before that becomes either how much money you have to have, where that found you kind of doing it almost as a joke, or how much of a diehard Al Pacino fan you have to be, where that feels like an opportunity that you can't miss.
Yeah. I mean, what's funny is he has a quote saying that he's maintained a close connection with his kids, apparently. He has, I think, 3 children. Noting that he wanted to be different from his father, who left him and his mother when he was quite young. And he said, I consciously knew that I didn't want to be like my dad. I wanted to be there. I have 3 children. I'm responsible for them. I'm a part of their life. But I guess that was 2014 he said that. So I guess dementia might be hitting in, because I don't know who realistically thinks when they're 83 years old, they're going to have a child and then be able to be there with them for a significant period of time.
Wow, I mean, what's dark?
But no, it's realistic. I mean, what's your outlook? Let's say you think you live to 100. Yeah. That means you're barely making their 17th birthday.
Wow, this feels like an unnecessary dig to be taking at Al Pacino and his family setup.
And actually, sure. I think De Niro is just had a kid too, and he's, I think, like high 70s as well. It's crazy to me.
I can imagine the interest. I would just think you're that age, you would presume have enough money to do whatever you want to do. So you could just be, that would be the other reason I wouldn't want to have a kid, is you just feel like that.
Do you think that kid's really affecting his day-to-day lifestyle?
It has to be, at least to some degree. No. Even if it doesn't mean he's taking care of them or something, but unless you're completely uninvolved, which then goes totally against what
what he
that
says.
statement, yeah, then yeah, it has to be a little bit in terms of when and where you can travel to, or even just with your wife, whether or not she can travel there as well. It's got to be having
Girlfriend.
girlfriend. It's got to be having some impact.
Girlfriend who previously dated Mick Jagger and Clint Eastwood.
So she has a type.
Yeah, money.
Old rich guys.
Yeah.
Old rich famous guys. Should be worth saying. Little Big Chill live update. So the Europa League final is going on while we're recording this. It has gone to a penalty shootout. Sevilla have scored their first 3 penalties. Roma have missed 2 of their first 3. So it looks as if Sevilla will be continuing their run of secondary European competition dominance.
They will now be 7-0 in Europa Cup finals.
Anyway, we covered the Al Pacino topic. Let's go Pat
McAfee
then. Let's go Pat McAfee.
All right, Pat McAfee walking away from a
Pack McAfee.
Pack McAfee.
Yeah.
Walking away from a 4-year, $120 million deal he signed with FanDuel to go work for ESPN for what is less money for sure. It has not been disclosed, the exact amount, but there was some rumblings that it was closer to about 17 million a year. So about 85 million total.
Which I think is a bit misleading, right? Because the deal he had with FanDuel was towards his company. So he was using that money, that 100 million, to pay all of his staff, the production costs. So it's not like he was taking 100 million in salary. So probably when you work the math out,
yeah,
it's probably
because now ESPN is going to do all the production side for him.
Right. So it's probably
really
it's probably pretty similar.
Yeah.
In terms of what his take home.
And less responsibility and less time with having to do the other like behind the scenes things. For sure.
And I got to be honest, I don't get the Pat McAfee interest. He can be okay at times. Like, I like this sort of laid back look at sports, but for the most part, I find it just to be jackass interviews of people and failing to get to good topics, and him just being, standing up with his wife beater on, being super enthusiastic about the person that he's speaking to, but I don't actually feel like he delivers much value in most of the stuff that he does.
I think he's more of a politically correct Barstool, is what I look at him as.
And he was previously with Barstool, so yeah. This is what surprises me from ESPN, and maybe the success of Barstool is the reason why they're doing it. But he does feel like a perfect Barstool person in terms of that type of
But he's less controversial, so I think he's a safer Barstool option. And I think ESPN has realized that they are losing fans to Barstool. Maybe there aren't the fans you want to bring back. Who knows? But they're losing them.
Yeah. And I also, as you know, I don't have too much respect for punters, so I know that's his whole brand.
Punter's the kicker, not punters the betters.
Yes, yes. So or kickers for that matter. I have a little bit more respect for kickers than I have for punters. Punters, I have more respect for a long snapper than I have for a punter in terms of the difficulty of their job. So,
all right, now the Harry Kane topic. This is like a rapid fire. There's been a lot of discussion on social media platforms as to whether Harry Kane scoring 30 for Spurs is more impressive than Haaland breaking the Premier League goal record and standing now at 36. What do you think?
Yeah, I think fundamentally him scoring 30 goals is more impressive than Haaland scoring 36. I think given the dominance of their respective teams, the number of chances that they create, the larger role that he has to play in terms of dropping back and also helping to create the Tottenham's attacking phase of play, I think it's certainly more impressive. Doesn't mean that I necessarily think he's a better player. I think he's a better all-round player, but because Haaland's so young, the jury is kind of still out in terms of what he will look like as a truly finished product. But yeah, I think it's difficult to argue.
I mean, and the other issue too is like when you look exactly what you're saying. I think when you look at the other side, if you go to assists, for instance, there are multiple Man City players in the top 10 in assists, kind of showing that Haaland doesn't have to lead the offense, whereas there is no one in the top 10 for Spurs. And it's Kane or nothing for them.
And you know how we love to bring XG into the debates. So Harry Kane's season-long XG, so his expected goals from the chances that he was. So for those unfamiliar with XG, sort of if you put the average player in the same positions that he was in with the same chances, how many goals would they have scored? And his season XG was 23.06, so he outperformed that by 6.94. Erling Haaland's season XG was 32.76, so he only outperformed it by 3.24. So,
and we put that in percentages, even less.
Yeah. So, I mean, it is so close there that it's hard to say that it's definitively one way or the other. But it certainly shows that maybe Harry Kane is slightly more reliable given a very good goal scoring opportunity. But we'll see. Next season, depending on where he ends up, I suppose will be the big test.
All right, Eddie. I want to bump this up and give you my weekly quiz. Only 2 players this year in the Premier League hit a double-double for the season. 10 goals, 10 assists. Who are those 2 players?
Well, I know one's Saka.
One is Saka. He had 14 goals, 11 assists.
Oh, the second one. I'm trying to run through.
There are 23 players who scored over 10 goals. So if you can remember all 23.
So that's... Yeah, I mean, I could probably name most of the players who scored 10 or more goals. The question is, so it's definitely not Haaland. I would say
it's close. He had 8. He had 8 assists. It was close.
Okay. I would say it's almost certainly not Harry Kane, but he could have a chance of it being him.
He only had 3 assists.
Okay.
It's Kane or bust.
It's not Tony.
It is not Tony.
I would be surprised if it was Mo Salah. I'd be surprised if it was Marcus Rashford, but it could be. I don't think it's Martinelli. It could be Odegaard, conceivably. I'll go Odegaard.
Odegaard, 7 assists.
Shit.
It was actually Mo Salah.
Oh, crap. I should have known because you had the period of silence after I said Salah, and I should have taken that as evidence of the fact that I named him, but okay. Right. Any other sporting topics? We obviously have Ted Lasso to wrap up. Any other sporting topics you'd like to cover?
I have no other sporting topics, but
talking actually of Premier League records, I just throw one in there, as you love the random stats. Although this one isn't that random. So this season was the Premier League season with the most sackings or firings ever. So 14 managers lost their jobs over the course of this season. And
wait. Does that count twice for Lampard?
I guess technically no, because I suppose he didn't really lose his job this season, if you see what I mean. He saw the season out. And then if you factor in interim managers or caretakers, as people would typically say in the UK, 39 managers took charge of a Premier League game this season. So considering there are 20 teams, so approaching 2 per team on average.
Wow. That's crazy.
And if you have nothing else to bring up pre-Ted Lasso, that would allow me to transition pretty smoothly into the Ted Lasso topic.
Well, you can transition to Ted Lasso, but I just wanted to say for me, this has been a rough 48 hours because I have seen 3 series finales of 3 shows that I quite enjoyed, at least for some stretch of time. With Ted Lasso now actually probably moving down to number 3 on that list. But Succession wrapped up on Sunday night, Barry wrapped up on Sunday night, and then Ted Lasso wrapped up on Tuesday night. So 3 shows that I very, very much enjoyed and would watch, as soon as they came out, basically almost every day. And it's going to be a tough time for me television wise to get through.
When you realize you're running out of shows, it is tough because finding new ones is not easy. Even if you have a relationship like we kind of both have it with Ted Lasso, where you're not necessarily loving the experience.
I was still sad at the end. I was genuinely depressed when it ended. I was sad because it made me think of how good it was and how much that first season just really made me happy, and probably like one of the darkest points in world history recently.
Oh, it's the pandemic, you mean, and stuff.
Yeah.
No, it's true. But all right, let's go on to Ted Lasso. I guess
Succession.
We kind of have 2 episodes to catch up on, but we don't maybe need to pay too much attention to the penultimate.
I just have
episode.
one single comment from the penultimate episode.
So do I, and we can see if it's actually. I have 2. Actually, I have 3. So go ahead with your one.
Okay. My one is they really drove home how much of a genius Nathan Shelley is by showing that, is he the only one that thinks about putting nuts down at a dining table so people will order more drinks? Is he the only one thinking about these things? Asshole. People have been thinking about this since bars were invented in the 1400s when they put out salty snacks, you idiot.
Also, probably not something you'd normally associate with your experience at a Greek restaurant. Olives, which you could argue might achieve the same thing. Yeah. Yes, but I don't expect to sit down for a Greek meal and be served some nuts beforehand. But okay, I've got 3 other. I'll do rapid fire penultimate episode comments. 1. Ted Lasso's mother comes to stay. He gives up his bed and sleeps on the sofa so that she can sleep in his main bed, in his bed, seemingly the only bed in his house. I've commented previously on the podcast how it's weird that a Premier League manager doesn't have a nicer / bigger apartment, but let's leave that out. However, his son has stayed with him multiple times. What is this? And we've watched him read his son a bedtime story. Where is that bedroom?
That's a great question. Maybe he's sleeping in Ted's bed.
Point number 2. The weird, I don't think they made a big enough deal in a sense of going back to find Jamie Tart, going back to see his mother, who in the 3 years that he's been playing for AFC Richmond has never turned up. He's never made any mention of her in spite of this incredibly close relationship that they have. And then also the ages barely add up. That then when they then go into his childhood bedroom, he has a poster of Roy Kent and a poster of Keely Jones, and it makes for a very awkward. We Googled the supposed ages of all those characters, and it kind of barely lines up in terms of an age at which it would be uncomfortable for him to be putting kind of certain types of posters up on his wall. That's comment number 2. And the final comment, speaking of managers, Pep Guardiola with his cameo in the TV show, doesn't have an acting career coming anytime soon. He is pushing Ted Lasso's son close for worst acting performance in the series. B, they then had Ted Lasso and Coach Beard kind of losing their minds over the interaction between the two of them. So either they're implying in the Ted Lasso universe, Pep Guardiola has only recently become Manchester City manager, or
besides the fact that we know definitively they play them because they play them twice in a season, we know definitively they played them because we've seen them on screen play City.
Yes. So they will have played them a minimum of 5 times in Ted Lasso's time at
Well, they
AFC
were
Richmond,
demoted.
relegated.
Oh, yeah, you're right. You're right. Actually, you're right. Because two in the
Well,
Premier, and then at
just
least one in FA
you'll
Cup.
just have triggered some people, but so yeah, they played twice the first season, once in the FA Cup in the second season, and then this would have been the second meeting, and that's without ruling out any cup matches that we didn't see take place or any weird friendlies that they seem to arrange and any multiple times. So yeah, that, that's that was weird. Anyway, that's my wrap up of the penultimate episode, and we can move on to the series finale.
Yeah. Um, tough.
Can I start with a positive?
Go ahead.
So I will say. So I guess we have to say spoiler alert for anyone who's not yet watched it. We are about to ruin a number of major storylines, I suppose, and I'm going to start right off the bat. I am happy that they did not win the league. If that had all ended with them winning the Premier League, I would have just felt as if this was all almost kind of pointless. That it was just, oh yeah, and in the end, the perfect storybook ending for virtually everything. I couldn't have been able, I wouldn't have been able to take.
Yeah. So I will say, I think one of the main problems with Ted Lasso, at least in this last season, that has really bothered me, is the lack of them showing important or significant parts of the series to then have you kind of be like fake lulled into something else potentially have happened or this and that. So for instance, one of the main ones being like when I start this episode with Ted sleeping at Rebecca's place to kind of give you like just that's a really cheap move for a TV show that in season one, again, like we keep bringing back season one, it was such a genuine show in season one. And to make like a trick move like this is low. But then also they do so many times where important things are happening and they don't show it. So another one for me was after Richmond wins, the announcer goes, "Now let's go to the Etihad and see the final of the City match." And it would have been really interesting to see them all watching the end and seeing City win and having them not win the league and see how they reacted and see how Ted reacted with the players and how he maybe kept them positive and didn't get them down. Like that's an important scene that would have been nice to show, but they don't. They just skip over it. And then 3 months later, he picks up I guess a week later, he picks up a newspaper that says like Richmond
3 days based on the timeline.
Okay, 3 days. Richmond gets second, and like that's
which would
stupid.
be weird 3 days later that it's a newspaper headline if you think about it.
It is weird.
They're like, we're still talking about this. Richmond have finished second. Breaking
3
news.
days later. But I really dislike that they did that, and they did that a lot this season, and I really didn't enjoy that. Okay, let's see. You picked out a positive. So let me pick out a positive. I don't know if you've got it, great reference to the Office joke. When they call Nathan, he says he's the assistant kit man, and Nathan says assistant to the kit man.
I don't like that. I don't like that at all, because that to me that's just a cheap way of pleasing someone like you who loves The Office and likes The Office. That to me sums up the quality of the writing on this, which is
no. That doesn't sum up the quality of the writing. The scene with the mother sums up how bad the writing is on that show. You say potatoes? You say potatoes.
Wow,
yeah. Great fucking joke.
But no, to me, it's the
that's what she said though.
But the quality to me, but the quality of the writing is shown in that, because it's not even, there's nothing creative in let's do a little reference to something people liked and it will please some people. And everyone will feel as if they're the only person. Did you get it? Like you said, like, oh, I got the reference. If that had been, for example, if The Office had been an Apple TV show, that would have bothered me less. If some of the cast of The Office were appearing in Ted Lasso, that would have bothered me less. Like, for example, had Nate been played by Rainn
Well,
Wilson.
he's not fucking Steve Carell.
No, but had Nate been played by Rainn Wilson, then I would have been like, oh, okay, that's like a funny reference to this person's most famous role. I can take that. But just why don't they just name what? Why could have just had an episode of being like, oh, and then Ted Lasso walked out and he went, "I'll be back," another reference, and then this guy walks out and we have like another funny line from a popular comedy series. It's just so
I thought it
unoriginal.
was a nice tip of the cap.
But you like stuff like that. I I don't.
Yeah, you don't like nostalgia. You don't like looking back at good times. All right. I'll try and find another positive then. Um, it's getting tough now.
Yeah, I think we've drained the well of the positivity. Can I? Okay,
Okay.
can I
Go
say a
ahead.
positive and it will be lead directly into a negative? I liked the final two episodes, focusing more on the actual football team and getting you into what was going on in the pitch, and that actually what they were doing as a team was significant. The negative to that for me is I had zero investment in any of it because I'd spent an entire season not telling us really about it, apart from, and Richmond have won 8 in a row. Richmond have lost 7 in a row. Richmond have done this, have done that. So, and showing us the quick montage of something happened. So, that to me was a sad reminder again of how good the first season was of showing you characters, but also having the team itself be a central figure. And then now they were kind of trying to go back to that, but that ship had sailed. I didn't have any interest in it anymore. I didn't care whether they won the league or not.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. Um, I was gonna say a positive is they focused less on Keely and her like, and I'll lead that into a negative. In all of these characters supposedly had arcs and developments. I don't see many in many of them. Like honestly, at that end scene when Rebecca and Ted hugged each other in the airport, and they both said like "thank you," no, thank you. I don't really know what Ted is thanking her for, because how did he progress? He separated
Oh,
from his wife.
oh, I can give you what you would think. She hired him for a job that he was totally unqualified for, albeit for reasons, ulterior motives that do not come across very well. But still,
Okay,
she gave him, when we have to assume, a fairly well paid job that he had absolutely no right to hold. And then had several instances where she probably should have fired him, but didn't do so. And also, he barely improved his understanding of anything to do with the sport. I mean, okay, we were supposed to appreciate that in the final match, he had learned what the offside law was, and that somehow he was noticing a player being offside that no one else had managed to track. Fine, but then at the same time, we had to go through this stupid Ted Lasso joke of like, so we're going to be in the Champions League, but last year we were in the championship. It's like, okay, we get it. At what point are you actually kind of appreciating the sport or just making the dumb jokes that people would make, making fun of
yeah,
the sport?
yeah, yeah. Like the the flip side of it that I thought was okay was when he said, "I came here wanting to learn one thing about soccer, or not knowing one thing about soccer, and I left knowing one thing about football." Like that's an okay joke. That's fine. That's just him being him, and like him being an idiot, not him mocking the European football system for the nth time. Like that was fine. That was an okay joke. But what I mean is, Rebecca's thanking him because, when she took over the team, she was clearly distraught about her divorce, was still clinging on to Rupert, wanted to punish Rupert by getting the team, and seemingly throughout these 3 seasons now has fully gotten over it, doesn't really care about Rupert. If anything, actually felt sorry for him at the end, completely changed her attitude, is now an independent woman again, is going to go out and now hook up with this weird Dutch guy again that randomly met in the streets in an airport. That's fine. But I don't get what progression Ted made. He didn't correct his his panic attacks. We never saw him actually resolve them. He didn't really learn anything from this trip, except if you're separated from your wife, don't give up. I, I don't
You're
see any
you're
progression
overly
in
harsh
Ted.
on the Ted Lasso character. It's very unfrank of you, I actually have to say, because I think he still progressed. He learned the things that were important to him, which is ultimately his family, that he had to be in the same place. That
But
whilst he
he
could
always
get
knew that. Wasn't that why he was so heartbroken that they became separated?
season one, he wasn't really though, was he? That was a season two development. Season one, he was separated, but hoped they would still work things out. And if you think about it, would season here, if you want to go character development, would season three Ted Lasso have left his family when his relationship with his wife was kind of on the rocks to move to another country for a job? And I think the answer is absolutely no. So the decision he made to start the whole television series, he would not make at the end of the series.
Maybe, but I think he was partially forced to take that job by his wife.
And sometimes I feel like we're going. This feels like a weird flashback to me being in high school English and kind of analyzing a piece of text. So there's those moments where we're probably paying a little bit too much attention to parts of a stupid TV show that we don't need to be paying attention to.
True.
But yeah, I think I think you're right in that Ted Lasso and Coach Beard had some of the least character development over the course of the show.
Yeah.
But then they were supposed to be, in a sense, like the problem you have is season one Ted Lasso and season one Coach Beard were actually fairly intact characters. Then they destroyed them both in different ways over season two and season three. And then we just go back to Ted Lasso kind of being Ted Lasso at the end, of being like happy go lucky, knows what's important in life, gonna go back to Kansas, coach his cardboard kids soccer team.
Yeah. The only one who had least character development is Keeley, who I don't know what she's learned from these 3 years except just keep asking rich women for more money.
Or eventually someone rich will just give you money.
Yeah.
And also, without seemingly really doing any part of your job particularly well, people will still want you to keep doing that job for them. So like, I get it. It's because, and also, why does everyone want to sleep with her? And I feel bad saying this. I mean, she's not exactly the most attractive human being in the world, you know? Like, for the level of interest.
Yeah, but this is England.
It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. For the level of interest. And that feels because, you know, that shouldn't be the only reason why someone's interested. But you get someone like Jamie Tart, who seemingly the only reason he wants her to go to Brazil with him at the end of the show is in the hopes of rekindling some relationship, which I also say this kind of made me hate it because Jamie Tart had progressed so much.
I know.
And in part of his progression to me had been the idea that he was genuinely friends with Keeley and with Roy Kent. And then right in the last minute, it goes back to like, no, but I want her too. Yeah. That made no sense.
Yeah. I don't blame Jamie for that. I blame the writers for that.
Oh, you don't blame the actor or the fictional character? Okay, that's good.
Yeah. Also, what coach is taking their player out for drinks? Seemingly, at most 2 days before the biggest match?
I think it was 3 days before, yeah.
So they're not training for 2 days leading up to a match?
Look, none of that final week made any sense. They were being given going away. That's the biggest plot hole here. So after their win against Manchester City, so with a week to go in the Premier League season, one match remaining, Ted Lasso tells Rebecca that he's going to be leaving the club at the end of the season. They try and sell you on the idea that maybe he expressed his love for her or something with the way that the final episode, which was so pointless. Especially because they didn't even commit to it for long enough to really properly trick you. But
and then why do we need to see Coach Beard in a thong?
I don't know, because he's that guy.
That was really gross.
I mean, he's that guy, and we know one of those guys. He's that guy. You know, he's that guy.
But if that guy that we know slapped his bare ass on my kitchen island, I'd slap him.
But there is no universe in which, okay, he maybe tells her, but then they tell all the players before going into this season deciding match.
And the fans know because they're at practice.
Because it's, all of their practices are just open practices now.
Yeah.
And none of those fans have jobs. Like the three.
Well, they know they seemingly have a ton of jobs because they're paying to buy the club now.
Well, not those three guys. They only got one share. And those three guys, the biggest diehard supporters, they'll attend open practices, never attend matches. They're just in the pub. Just in the pub watching every match. Never go to an actual match. And that pub illegally streaming most of those matches. Because every AFC Richmond game is on television in that pub.
That's true.
And
now we're getting into the nitty gritty of English football.
But anyway, so moving on from all that, the idea that they would tell everyone, and that also none of the players had any. They didn't have. There was just, we're happy for you. They did the stupid Sound of Music scene, and none of the players expressed any, no, Ted Lasso, stay. No, we can't do this without you. It was just, have a great life. We're going to win the league. Have a great life. So
I'll give you a positive and a negative about that scene. I did enjoy when Ted Lasso went, perfect, and they all just erupted celebrating. I thought that was pretty funny. I kind of enjoyed that, where he's looking around, they're just running around screaming. But if that was what I was presented with, I'm largely unimpressed. I thought it was going to be way more grandiose and choreography and singing, and they took a very well-known song and did a little 4-second jig and ran off.
Give them some credit. In the space of anywhere from 3 to 1 day in which they knew that he was leaving.
Yeah, but this is a fake Ted Lasso universe.
I know, so but in real life,
they have months in this show.
But in real life, they would have put together a fully choreographed musical number, including solos and different dance moves. It actually would be fairly impressive in that time. But yes, it was stupid. All right, then where do we go next?
So they just seemingly have 48 hours to just blow on the biggest match of their life.
No preparation.
Makes no sense.
Even in the build up to the day of the match itself, Keely's walking in, they're all kind of saying goodbye to each other and stuff, even though it's your last day. It's don't you have a whole match and then there'll be some responsibilities? It's not as if he just full-time whistle goes, see you guys. AFC Richmond was fun.
So why can't Ted open up his gift of a snow globe before he gets on the plane? If someone told me that, if someone's no, don't open this up until you're on the plane. It's really special, really important. And I pulled out a snow globe, that thing will be through the fucking airplane window.
Speaking of monetary value of some stuff, though, the fines, which it's a nice nod to there is a fine culture within. So that is true. You get fined for being late, for not putting stuff away.
But it's usually on the board in real time.
But you do, and they do have the idea that you can appeal. So there are the captain will sit there and say, okay, do we want to waive this fine or not? And that money does go towards their end of season celebrations or their Christmas party or whatever. That's fine. The fact that they're getting fined £200, £100, these are guys who presumably must be earning minimum £20,000 a week. Those fines would be in the thousands. And the fact that then Nate was fined £5,000 for which... And he was just fine with it. I mean, it showed the money he must have been making as West Ham manager, that hey, your fine's going to be £5,000. And he just goes, okay, that's probably fair. I'll let me get out my card and just pay the £5,000 now, guys. Thanks very much.
Yeah, and what a money laundering scheme this is. That it's just going to go into what's his face's own restaurant.
Yeah, and now, good job, guys. Now we can have an open bar.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be pissed if I were on that team. I'd be like, "Fuck, we're going to his restaurant again. We just got
how many fucking times? Yeah, like how many times do I have to get the shits eating Nigerian food?
Every team event has to be at this fucking shitty Nigerian restaurant in Richmond.
Every team event, I've got to go through a roll of toilet paper the next day.
Oh, I hope we get really lucky and he gives us a book of matches again. Then I'll be wow.
And if we're really, really lucky, there's construction work to do that we can do in between courses.
And remember, he hasn't fixed the mirrors. Those are still smashed for a like aesthetic move and as a reminder. That makes it even better. But yeah.
I did like they had a joke directed right at our buddy Furlong with the air conditioning is a privilege, not a right.
Oh, yeah. Not for some. Now, the sale of the club as a quick topic to cover. So,
wait, real quick before you get into the logistics.
Yeah.
My side note here is that she goes insane when she finds out it's $2 billion. Is she not smart enough to realize that if she does 49%, it's still a fucking billion? Like at that point, what's the difference? You could get $1 billion and still own the club.
And also, she has no idea what the club is worth. She's running this club and has been running it for several years. During that time, other Premier League clubs, other championship clubs would have been sold. She will have some sense of what the revenue coming in is, whatever profit or losses they're making. And she has no idea what the value of the club is. Like, what number was she expecting where the 2 billion blew her away? Was she expecting him to say, I don't know, maybe 50 million? Oh my God, 2 billion. So there's already that idea, which doesn't make a ton of sense. But also the idea that Richmond have secured Champions League football. And in the sort of three days since they secured Champions League football, offers have been flooding in to buy 49% stake in the club. In what world is this where it's just like, there's just rich people sitting around the world being like, oh my God, Richmond are going to be playing in the Champions League next season? I better get on the phone and ask if I can buy 49% of the club. Like, without them putting out any feelers indicating that they're maybe open to a sale. Like, it's just weird. All of that aside, I'm glad that they actually valued the club at a somewhat realistic figure for a Premier League club, certainly one, and that it wasn't like Ted Lasso weird universe where either they wouldn't say how much it was worth or we had to pretend that none of these people are rich, which we kind of continuously have to do with them. The fact that she's able to sell 49% of that club to a fan consortium in the space of 3 days, even in the crazy things that have happened to Ted Lasso, is insane. And not a particularly big club, right?
Give me the percentage, give me the amount of people that you think bought into the club.
Let's say every fan, basically, let's just presume that the opportunity to buy a share comes up and every fan does that.
Okay, so how many fans is that?
Let's say Richmond has 50. Let's be generous. On the back of a good season, they have 100,000 fans.
Okay. That would mean each fan needs to spend $10,000 to buy a share.
Right, which ain't happening. But okay. Yes, there will be some who buy one, and then there'll be some rich ones who buy 100,000, 500,000, a million, maybe. I mean, I just also don't understand the fan aspect. So how are they vetting? How are you proving? You know, like going through that type of process of being like a fan bought thing, there would have to be it would be a long drawn out thing because you wouldn't want to run the risk that like Rupert just snaps up 49% of the club, or
Yep.
the Ghanaian guy who wants to build a super league.
Oh God!
You know, like
Thank God he didn't make an appearance for the finale. That's a positive.
Yeah, yes, but yeah, that the speed with which all of those things happened is just ridiculously stupid, even by Ted Lasso standards.
Eddie, how realistic is it that a Premier League manager would have extremely short shorts on with no underwear while managing a match?
More realistic than that sale, but I didn't. The only reason they did that
Was so
was
his
so
ball
that,
could come out.
yeah, like this was it. That was, let's put him in weirdly short shorts so that he can get pushed over and a testicle can come out.
Yeah,
That's it. It doesn't.
both came out because there's
Yeah,
three balls
three
on the
balls
field.
on the pitch. Yeah, it wasn't really worth the payoff. But even less realistic than that is the idea that the owner of the away team could just march his way onto the pitch, assault the manager of his own team, and then just march his way off.
Yeah.
Nothing happened. And then even more unrealistic is the fact that a penalty was hit so hard that it went through the fucking net.
Also, as unrealistic, it went through the net, but no one saw it.
I'll be honest with you, even looking at the replays, didn't look like it went through the net to me. It really didn't. Like they made it look like it missed. And then even when they showed you, and they were supposed to be showing you how it went through like the roof of the net at a very weird angle, still didn't look like it went through the net. But, oh well.
That whole thing, I like the handing of the ball off to take the penalty.
At least they had it, Colin kind of wrap that up.
Yeah. So wait, let me just wrap up. The captain of AFC Richmond has never taken a corner and never taken a penalty is in his entire football career.
So the no penalty, it's believable.
Even
it's
when
believable
you're like
because
a youth.
Well, I think they mean professional career, right? So I don't think it's not like it wasn't as
But
stupid.
His reaction was as if he's never like he didn't even know where to put the ball.
No, I don't think he was nervous. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt there. It wasn't as stupid as the corner thing where he's literally like, "What do I do?" Like that was ridiculously stupid. This I can understand it being like, "Oh, he's never taken a penalty in a professional football match." It's believable. He's a central defender. He wouldn't be unless they went to a penalty shootout. He's probably never taking a penalty. So I can kind of get it, but yeah, but then he just hit it so hard. One of the guests we're trying to book on the podcast is Stephen Reed, the former Blackburn Republic of Ireland player. He holds the record for the fastest sort of strike of a ball in Premier League history. He scored a goal against Wigan where he hit the ball at over 117 miles an hour. That thing flew. That didn't burst the net. So if the net could survive 117 miles an hour, I don't know how hard they're making it out that he hit it. But yeah, it was a final episode full of cameos, right? You had Mike Dean, the guy who was the referee, who was a former referee, so there was that. You had Thierry Henry making his brief appearance. You know, again, it felt a little unnecessary for a TV show that hadn't included those people as characters throughout the show. Why do you finally kind of...
Well, Thierry Henry has been on it before because it was the same joke where I think it was either Ted or Beard said like, "Shut up, Thierry Henry."
I think it was once though.
Yeah, once. But the other thing too is there was also characters that they were bringing back from previous episodes or seasons that I didn't even know who they were. Like that
Higgins' wife.
Higgins' wife is one. We've met her once. What about that couple who was like the rude couple to Rebecca, that the guy got knocked in the face with the ball and was bleeding?
No, they were
dates. In a previous episode. Oh, they
went
on dates.
She dated him briefly, and then so that one at least he'd appeared.
What about
in a few
other?
episodes.
What about the other guy who picked up the ticket in the beginning? Was that supposed to just be a joke that I just didn't understand the joke? He said you have a ticket under the name, and he said some weird name. I think the name was supposed to be a joke. Maybe I didn't get it.
I might not have paid attention at that point.
Yeah. How about if we just zoom out a little bit here and think about the fact that AFC Richmond won 17 matches in a row. This is the team that has not one player added to their roster to start the season.
As far as we're aware.
I mean, we look in the locker room.
I know, but there's probably, you don't
there
really
was that redheaded guy. Where did he come from?
There's probably people in the squad, but certainly in the sort of first 11, no, there was no one added. So yeah, that was yeah, it's an impressive achievement.
However, Eddie, you were incorrect with your prediction. Nathan Shelley, not the manager of AFC Richmond.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Got to wait till. Do you think there will be a spin-off?
Yes. Unfortunately, I do.
Will you watch it?
I thought about this halfway through this episode when I said, I guarantee there's going to be like the Brett Goldstein spinoff. And I thought about, I do like Roy Kent as a character, and I do love Ted Lasso as a show, but can I put myself through? If like this is the bar they're setting is season 3, oof. I don't know if I want to hurt myself anymore. I was a little disappointed when they showed the video to start the match instead of having a Ted Lasso speech. But then we eventually did get the second half Ted Lasso speech, so that was okay. I was okay with that. If they were going to go out the last match without a Ted Lasso speech, that would have been really annoying. But they did have that. Like the callback to the Believe sign, that was okay. Because that had been mentioned multiple times through multiple seasons. That was like a running theme of the show. That is an okay callback to me. But some of the more random callbacks they had were just weird in that episode.
So, looking quickly at the rumors of potential spinoffs, which one of these interests you the most? And which one of these interests you the least?
Okay.
So, the potential candidates. So, Roy Kent, as you've mentioned. A Nathan Shelley spinoff.
Oh, I'd rather burn my eyes out.
A Jamie Tart spinoff.
Yeah, that I'd watch.
A Rebecca Welton spinoff.
No, I think her story's done. That was good. She had the most concluding story.
Well, except now we're going to see her marry
I have no interest in that.
The Dutch pilot and adopt his child and fulfill the prediction that she would be a mother.
See, now, here's again where they missed the chance. Why didn't, when she stepped down to help that girl, that like the matchbook fall out of her purse? This is just me off the cuff throwing that out.
You wanted even more reference to that.
Because the whole thing, wasn't it, right, that she was going to have a kid. She was going to have a kid with this the green matchbook, blah, blah, blah. Like that would have been a little better writing than
I did like that the kid
nothing.
fell over. I did enjoy that it kind of took you out of the moment because I was like, oh, this stupid thing of her just watching a kid run towards her. The kid falling over was at least somewhat amusing. A Trent Krim spinoff.
Oh, no.
Had enough of Trent Krim and his amusing t-shirts. How about, I like that this is how this is decided. This is how this is described. How about a Sam Obisanya spinoff? Midfielder for Richmond AFC and owner of a Nigerian restaurant.
That sounds like a 90s sitcom where like by day he's a professional athlete and by night he's like waiting tables.
It's not far off Cheers, right?
It's close.
I mean, it's not too far off Cheers. Would I be more on board if Coach Beard bought that local pub and it was just Coach Beard running that pub? I've had enough of Coach Beard, but
yeah.
One minor thing. It was hard to, just because it was hard to tell at certain moments how much of it was almost a dream sequence for Ted Lasso because he was kind of cut back to him on the plane whilst certain things.
It didn't follow a timeline.
Like I didn't quite understand. Was like, oh, was that him? Uh, Sort of imagining things or whatever, but I'm presuming everything we saw was really happening.
Yeah.
In which case, Coach Beard getting married
And Ted's
and
not
Ted
there.
Lasso not attending.
No.
Is that remotely believable?
No. I thought that was so stupid. And why do you need to show Beard getting married?
At
The
Stonehenge.
only half funny joke of that was Danny Rojas having the two girls. That was like only slightly funny. And it
But
wasn't even
also
that
seems
funny.
out of character. There's no been, you know, I mean, he's not been made out to be this like womanizer.
Yeah, he didn't want to go to the sex show. He wanted to go see the rose or the tulip.
Yeah, the single tulip. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. The other joke I thought was pretty funny was when the flight attendant's like, would you like to go to the hospital with your friend? And Ted's like, no, I'm good. And she's like, man, what an asshole. That was pretty good. But let's wrap it up, Eddie. You thought his son was a bad actor, but did you know he may be even worse at moving his body?
Oh, I rewatched the scene when he yells "Dad" and he
And
runs out of
runs.
the house. I watched that scene, literally rewound it and watched it 5 times, just laughing at the body movements that he made.
It was as if what they told him to do was pretend hold on. Pretend you've been sitting on your leg for a long time and your leg's gone numb, but he confused leg with arm and ran as if his arm had a dead arm and it was just flopping. He was like leaning to his side.
He also, I mean, it was like something kind of out of Forrest Gump almost. But then on top of it, I feel so bad to make fun of the kid. He then goes and hugs Ted Lasso, and then his mother calls back, and he turns around to look at his mother, and it's the biggest dead-eye robot stare. I encourage you to go back and just watch that little moment when he turns around to look, and you'd expect this kid, family coming back together, he'd be just happy, and it's like, oh, my mother.
What are the chances this kid becomes a famous actor?
Oh, less than the chances that I become a famous actor. I mean,
it's like send us your reel. It's that and like we're good.
his best acting in a way was actually during the football soccer scenes at the very end. Although even when he missed the goal, there was just this weird like silent like, how did I miss that? It was like very weird, like as if everything else had stopped around him. Speaking of that family dynamic though, the former marriage counselor / new boyfriend, I get it that they then wanted to make him seem like a dick. How big of a dick would you have to be to have your like, I could maybe get that he's a little bit uncomfortable with the situation that his current current girlfriend's ex-husband is like managing the team and you're tuning in, but then don't be there for the match would be my move.
No, see, you're wrong, Eddie.
But
he's openly forced to watch his current girlfriend cheer excitedly and be super nervous for her ex-husband. No, fuck that, dude.
But
either you're with me or you're with this douche with a mustache.
But it's also the father of her kid, and the kid's really into
it. You know what? I don't want to be that kid's father anyway.
No, that's true. He'd be a deal breaker. But
this guy dodged a bullet.
But that guy they made him into such, again, completely out of character with everything else we'd previously seen.
Yep.
Made him into such a massive dick that he sat down and be like, they're highly anticipating the match, and he sits down and he's like, everybody excited to watch a game where nothing happens?
And then in the last 5, he's sitting at like what looks like a bar.
Yeah, he's like shifted away as more things. And in actual fact, a pretty event-packed match. Like, you couldn't complain. It was a dull match. 3-2 with a last-minute winner. Lots of goals, I mean, Richmond had a sequence of about 90 seconds where they seemingly hit the crossbar 4 times.
Now, was that all one sequence?
I couldn't tell. I don't think it was, because it was like the 49th minute and then Jamie Tart scored in the 51st or something. So it seemed like it wasn't, but it was just like, crossbar.
What was really great was he was like on his phone in the back, and if you look in the mirror reflection, he's on Pornhub.
Just watching one of Coach Beer's videos.
Yeah.
Well, what a way to end.
Wait. The wrapping up of all the stories. Did we need to see the therapist make her way back? Was that necessary?
No.
And why is she in a Dallas Cowboys shirt?
I don't know. I didn't know why she had to return again, unless it's setting it up. The only thing I could think of is, in their mind, they're like, let's make sure everyone features in case we do a spinoff. Let's bring final episode. We get Higgins' wife back in case this is a Higgins spinoff. We make sure we bring that therapist back in case it's like a sports psychology spinoff.
The Higgins spinoff, that's the After Night spinoff.
Just him and his wife watching his mother eat ass.
And Nathan had a great line when he was like, I think people can definitely change. It's like, yeah, of course you do, Nathan. You've heel turned 5 times in one season.
That was the elephant in the room in that bit, which no one was really addressing. You'd think someone would have said, yeah, we agree, but it's just like, no, I think so. What else?
And the Rupert part to me as well was kind of strange. For a show that was so upbeat and so positive and didn't want to have anything be negative, to have one of the characters end the show by walking onto a pitch, physically assaulting his employee after being accused of sexual misconducts and then being called a wanker as he's forced off the field. That's a rough go. I get it. He's not a nice guy, but this is a show that on the whole has tried to find the positive light in people.
But it was also strange because then there was a sense of weird sympathy towards him in terms of
I thought she was going to sell him half the club.
Oh, that would have been once they brought the sexual misconduct element in. And let's be real here. The sexual, as far as we can tell, the sexual misconduct he's having is having an affair with his secretary. Like, that's sort of, or assistant, I suppose. That's as far as we can tell. That's kind of what the scandal that he is being sort of hit by. That could be bad for sure, but you're not going to be forced to sell your football club because you had an affair with your assistant. Like, no one's going to be like, you got to sell West Ham. We're really sorry. Like, the government is stepping in on this one. Like, it's you and Abramovich. You two are being forced to sell these clubs because every other owner of a Premier League football club is an absolutely upstanding citizen and they have never done anything wrong. So we got to get rid of you.
Yeah, that is weird. And we just talked about Al Pacino dating a 29-year-old.
Yeah, but no, it was all right. Again, it made me mostly just think what could have been, in that if they just followed the team more closely and not weighed us down with so many subplots, that actually the final season could have been great. And instead it was just like.
And I have to, at the end of the day, I mean, I 100% have to agree with Rebecca. Why can't his wife and kid just come there? He's got right now he's coaching youth soccer as opposed to being on coaching a Champions League club in a place now that everyone loves him.
Oh, and she was going to make him one of the highest paid managers in the world.
Yeah.
Which only if she sold part of the club. This was the other bit that she was like, oh, we can only do these things if we sell part of the club. As if she was going to sell the club and she was going to personally reinvest that money into the club. It doesn't really make any sense. Like, again, there's the financial fair play rules and stuff. Like, they were about to get Champions League football and have a huge windfall in terms of their finances. They don't need additional funding to just, especially if this club has about 7 employees and 12 players. Like,
and one poor greyhound dog that has to wear a helmet.
Yeah, they really
got a cameo in the finale.
Yeah, just in case he's the spinoff.
Yeah, I don't get why they don't just come there.
Oh, the wife's a bitch. Like, this is the only explanation. I mean, look, this is the only explanation. You live in Kansas. Like, let's also factor that in. And don't mean that as like an insult to Kansas.
No, you can fully mean it as an insult to Kansas.
But it's not as if it's not like she's living in some hugely desirable
like
location.
The hills.
Where she's like,
she's not living in Malibu Beach.
Yeah, she's like, I can't get this kind of quality of life anywhere else.
Yeah.
Like, so they've probably mentioned what her job is, but
she's a teacher.
Oh yeah,
she said it. She said she could come here and be a teacher, and she'd be the department head or something.
Yeah. So there's absolutely no reason. The kid loves football.
Loves it.
The kid would fully be on board. But yeah, just won't do it. She's just like, nope, come be here and be miserable. Lose your best friend, lose an incredible job.
Yep.
Lose all these
incredible job.
Lose all of these incredibly important friendships you've made over the past 3 years of your life that have helped you to get through one of the most challenging, aside from your dad dying as a kid, probably the most challenging period of your life.
When I ditched you and dumped you for the therapist.
Fuck them all and come back to Kansas. And trust me, I won't. Let's go to a different marriage counselor. And then
by the way, I found this 28-year-old, very handsome marriage counselor we should start seeing now.
Yeah. No, now I've got a personal trainer, and that guy is hot.
Personal trainer. That's pretty good. Yeah.
She sucks. And the sad thing about that is they could have come up with a better reason for like why he needed to be home.
Yeah.
Which they kind of dealt with at different moments in time.
At least give me like her parent, like her mother is sick and she has to care for her or something like that. At least something.
You know where they could have done it? They could have done it when his mother visited. They could have thrown in she was sick.
Who's sick?
Ted Lasso's mother.
Oh, the one he told to fuck off?
Multiple times. No, he said, fuck you.
Oh, fuck you. So now should we talk about Succession?
Fuck that show. I'm so glad Succession is done so that
I'm not. It's so sad.
Like, I'm just, when you don't, and I'm sure there's plenty of people who've listened to this podcast and who don't watch Ted Lasso, who are probably now happy that Ted Lasso is done so that we don't have 40 minutes of Ted Lasso talk. But almost every podcast I listen to has at least some, and this is the problem that bothers me. I can deal with one. I actually, as I've said before, I quite like sometimes listening to discussions about TV shows I don't watch. But when basically every podcast I listen to has to talk about the latest, I know Monday, Tuesday, every single one of them will be like, the latest episode of Succession. Can you believe that Greg did this?
It's so fucking good, Eddie. And that's a show that nailed their last season and nailed the finale.
And they've got great people in it. They've got the one guy who's off sexually assaulting girls in New York or whatever. The actual actor. What? Oh, you've not seen this scandal about the one actor? I think it's the guy who plays Greg. He's like getting into all sorts of trouble.
The bar owner, Nicholas Braun?
Yeah. That he's been like taking advantage of young drunk girls and...
Well, I mean, he owns a bar that they line up out the door to go into.
Oh, so you have to touch them.
They're literally paying to get in for that.
If you wait in line for an hour, that's basically a consent form.
They sign a form to go in.
Speaking of which, I'll figure out a transition way back to Vasilis was telling me around his birthday, he went to a bar that actually neither of us go to in Paris. And when he was there, he was speaking to, he was like talking to some girls, and one of them was like, "Oh, it's your birthday?" He's like, "Yeah." He's like, "Do you want to do a Texas shot?" He's like, "I don't know what a Texas shot is." And she was like, "Oh, I take the shot glass and I put it in between my boobs, and you do the shot out of my cleavage," which I've never heard that referred to as a Texas
That's
shot.
a Texas
But what,
shot. No.
whatever. And so then he goes to do it, and the bar around him, according to Vasilis, uproar, where they're like, "Dude, she's fucking 19 years old. What the fuck are you doing, you creep? You're like in your 30s. This girl's like 19. This girl's like 19 years old. What on earth are you doing, you creep?" And then he snapped and was like, "Well, you're all fucking judging me. All of you behind the bar, you all do cocaine and have drug problems. all you customers, what? It wasn't even my idea. She asked me to do it. What are you getting on me for?" And then just said, "See ya," left, and will never go back.
Is this a fancy cocktail bar?
No, it's the fucking Islander.
Oh.
I wish this had gone down at a fancy cocktail bar. That would have been even better.
Well, because I saw he always goes to that bar where they make like the fancy drinks.
Yeah.
I thought that's what it was.
No.
Because you said a bar we never go to.
Yeah,
I've been to the Highlander.
We've been,
We've
been
to the Highlander.
It's not on our list of places we go to.
No,
regularly.
it is not.
But and now Vasilis won't go, supposedly. But a little bit like your Uber story, he was telling this to me, and I think he fully expected me to be on his side. And I was like, "Well, Vas, we are getting a little older, so maybe the 19-year-old girls need to be cut out of the body shot routine." Like, I know it's a hard one to see go. It's like watching Succession end. It's tough to accept that time has passed you by when it comes to the Texas shots. But maybe his only defense was she didn't look 19. It's not defense you want. Trust me, officer, she looked older.
She didn't tell me her age.
I presume she was 17.
Oh boy. All right. Well, with one last Vasilis story, I think we call it a wrap. Talk to you later.
See ya.